Okay, we are live, Madam Chair.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 26th. The time is 6:38, and this is the Environmental Committee. And we are meeting to review the DSNY residential waste containerization and their information center sessions. Was everyone on the information, or everyone saw the information session?
Yeah, we saw it here. I'm not sure if I think Issa had not seen it, but um
I did
Steve.
not know.
Okay. So pretty much the Department of Sanitation beginning November 12th is going to require that all trash be set out in a bin, 55 gallons or less, with a secure lid. This is from 1 to 9 family properties. And Department of Sanitation is going to be hosting throughout the month of October informational sessions. Many of us have participated in one, if not tonight, than before, and there's still more that will be taking place through the month of October, as was explained today. So if you have any questions or issues, and since the district office has received lots of questions from residents, and we thought it was a good idea to kind of get some of those questions out there, we've invited Steve Caruso, who is here from the Department of Sanitation, to kind of speak to us and answer some questions that we may have. Steve, I see that you're here. I see your name on the screen. Can you hear us? Steve, you could unmute. I think we're having issues with Steve. I see his name here. He's from the Department of Sanitation. So maybe Tracy, if you want, we could go through some of the, maybe a little bit what the presentation. I could probably share my screen and show the flyer that was on one of the slides, just so the committee members know.
I think one of my big takeaways thank you, Josephine. I think one of the big takeaways is they were very stressing that the 1 to 9 units does include single family homes. So just to make sure that the term 1 to 9 units could be misinterpreted into like a multifamily, but it also includes single family.
And just to confirm, these bins have to be the New York City approved bins.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, right? Yeah. So we'll go through this flyer. So on this informational notification from Department of Sanitation, all trash must be set out in a bin 55 gallons or less with a secure lid. This applies to single-family homes, two-family homes, buildings with up to 9 apartments. You can use a compliant bin, 55 gallons or less, with a secure lid that you already have. But starting June of 2026, you must use an official NYC bin. So from now up until June of 26, you can use containers that you have already, provided that it's less than 55 gallons. That doesn't preclude you. If you'd like to buy a DSNY New York City bin, they are available. And information is on the Department of Sanitation's website.
And they did make a note that they were trying to keep the cost no more than $50, which is significantly less than what is for the same type of bins retail.
Okay.
So I'm not a little curious. I'm going to see if I could call Steve Caruso on the phone, because I see his name here, but I was hoping he could answer some, questions that the committee may have. I know we have some members of the public here, and I have a list of some concerns that I thought perhaps we could, jot down, and perhaps if we wanted to put them in a more formal way to Department of Sanitation before the rollout begins in November, which is why we started. So I'll just ask again, Steve, can you hear us? Okay, I'm gonna go inside and I'm just gonna give him a quick call.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Hello,
evening.
welcome.
Is anyone else having technical difficulties, or is it just me?
I believe it's just you.
Hi,
Okay,
Steve. I was just trying to, there must have been a technical issue. Hi, how are you?
very good. I'm sorry about that. I was waiting the past 15 minutes, and I'm wondering why isn't anybody speaking, or why is
Yeah.
there no? So I'm very sorry about that.
No, it's all good, all good. So, so Steve, many of us have watched it. We just went through, I shared the flyer on the new, regulations for 1 to 9 families, and I know that we have some questions for you. Did you want to say anything first, or would you want to roll right into questions?
Well, so everyone watched the info session that's in
Yeah,
this meeting?
most of us did, yes.
All right, so all the information that Richard covered in the meeting, I was gonna go over. I did have some bullet points, just a few things that I wanted to emphasize. So maybe I could do that. Just take a minute or two to do that, and then I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Great.
Okay, so beginning November 12th, all residents in 1 to 9 unit buildings, as well as any special use buildings, churches, houses of worship, are all going to be required to containerize their trash. All right. The requirement just says that you need a 55-gallon or less bin with a tight fitting lid. It does not have to be the official New York City bin. Okay. The official New York City bin is not required until June 2026. All right. Only trash is required at this time. Recyclables, if you so choose to put them out in clear bags, that's metal, glass, and plastic, or paper, you could still do so. But of course, any bags that get set out need to be set out after 8 o'clock p.m. Bins are allowed to be set out as early as 6 o'clock p.m. Okay. One thing that I don't believe Richard discussed, and I had jumped off a little bit early so that I could log into this, was that there is going to be an enforcement aspect. So first offense is going to be $50. Second offense is $100. Third and subsequent is $200. So there will be a warning period through the end of the year for not having a bin, and then fines are going to start in January of 2025. All right. Again, as I mentioned, as of June 2026, we're going to be required to use the official New York City bin. Again, that's trash only. You don't necessarily have to do that for recyclables at this time, although the recycled bins are available. If you go to the website, which I can provide to you, bins are about $50. That's for the most common size, which is going to be 45 gallons. If you go for the 35 gallon, it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit less. All right. I could also give you the website to go there, or I could give you the phone number as well. Some residents prefer to just call up and order their bins instead of ordering them online, and that's fine. We do have a phone number available. So those are the facts. That's what you need to know for the new requirement coming up this November. And now I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, great. Thank
Mm.
you. Thank you, Steve. Tracy, we have a question from the public. Would you like me to, we have a raised hand?
Yes, please.
Wade Jabor, Wade. You should be able to unmute, Wade.
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
Okay, good.
Now you hear me? Okay.
I
Do you
hear you,
see me?
yes.
You
Yes.
see me too?
Well, I see your name, not you. I
Oh,
don't know
okay,
why, but
Okay.
okay.
All right. Thank you for calling on me. So I understand about the residential properties. I'm a little concerned about the storefronts, the typical mixed use, two family and a store.
Mhm.
As an example, in my own building and many of them on the neighborhood on Third Avenue, Fifth Avenue, where are we going to put these bins when they're not in use? We have no room. You have a little hallway that goes upstairs to the tenants. And where do you think we're going to put them? Now they're going to be a little dirty. They're going to be a little smelly. Have any answers for that? Any thoughts about it?
Sure. Hi, Wade. So residents and businesses are both allowed to store the bins either behind the building, on the side of the building, inside of the building, and if there's no space, you are allowed to store it in front of the building as well. So you would have to store it in front of the storefront. The bins would be required to be along the building line. As long as they're kept neat and orderly, they're not impeding pedestrian traffic, it would be okay.
Okay, so I mean, my problem with that is the whole avenue now is going to have garbage cans sitting in the front of their stores, a lot of them. That's a possibility. The other thing is these pans will be, if you're not a food operation, typically the garbage, would be clean, let's say. But now I have to drag, or someone's got to drag these containers to the back of the building and put them outside. If there's even easy access to go to the back of the building in the backyard. Some buildings don't have easy access from the ground floor. That means we're stuck with them sitting in the front, and it's going to make the avenue it's going to look horrible. With all these cans in front of all these stores, it's really going to take away. Here we are trying to beautify our streets, putting trees out in the front, decorating the area for Christmas, benches to sit around on, and now we got garbage cans all over the place. I'm sorry, I'm a little excited about it, but
No, thank you, Wade. So Steve, I mean, we are hearing this from a lot of businesses along Third Avenue, Fifth Avenue, along our commercial corridors. And as Wade mentioned, and as we've heard a lot the last few weeks from the mixed use properties, some store owners don't want the containers in front of their establishments, and many have used a system where they have done thick recycle thicker bags in storage that are easily pulled out on collection days. I mean, has department thought about this, thought about exemptions for receptacles that are not containers, that are more easily moved, that could be tight fitting bags, as opposed to specifically on the avenues. Some merchants have begun to store containers in front of storefronts that are not food related, and are experiencing illegal dumping by the containers. And then there's a concern too that there would be added illegal dumping at the corner baskets because of buildings' inability to store the containers. So these are just operational concerns that have been presented to us, and perhaps we can jot them down and share them with you to bring back to your team and your staff to take a look at and perhaps explore a little bit. I don't know if I'm not an operational person, but we're hearing a lot of operational challenges to this new regulation for 1 to 9.
Okay, so I'm absolutely going to take all this information back. I am from the Bureau of Community Affairs, so our job is to work with all the elected officials, all the community boards and community groups. We're joining every community board meeting across the city to announce these new rules and to gather the feedback and to take it back to the right people and make sure that they hear it. My main concern here tonight is just making sure that everybody knows what the rules are, what the upcoming rules are. Of course, if anything changes between now and November, I will absolutely let the community board know. You will be made aware of it. Just to kind of talk about some of the concerns that were mentioned, you know, increased dumping at the corner baskets, or potentially having some folks improperly disposed by businesses or residential containers. You know, as of right now, it's not happening. So to talk about the future, you know, I'd rather not get into it. If it becomes an issue in the future, then we can revisit it. But I do understand your concerns, and I absolutely will take them back.
Thank you. And we have another question in the district office. Yeah, so the resident here has a metal container that's under 55 gallons with a lid. Is that permitted to be used as part of, you know, from now until the DSNY containers are required?
Yeah, so if it's as long as it's 55 gallons or less and it has a nice tight fitting lid on it, it's acceptable.
Okay. Okay. Steve, the other question.
If
Yeah,
I
I'm sorry.
may add, I'm
Yes,
sorry
go
to
ahead.
jump
No,
in.
sure, go ahead, Wade.
With Josephine's remarks, you know, what do we do when these cans are sitting out there and people are walking their dogs and putting their stuff in our cans? That's a problem. And how do you stop that? That's a big problem, because that's what happens even at my house, in the front of the house, when they're walking by. If the can is sitting out there an extra 10 minutes, they're putting their poop in my cans. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, the other question that we received in advance of the meeting was for some seniors. Is the department going to consider, you know, discounts for the price of there? Is there any programs out there available? And second is, some seniors have asked the district office, saying that they don't produce much trash, and that a 35 or 55 gallon container, they're concerned about, you know, getting it to the curb and getting it off the curb. Has there been any consideration for some issues pertaining to seniors or the disabled?
Okay, so as of right now, there is no subsidy, so everyone is going to pay the full price for the bins. But as Richard had mentioned during the info session, we've worked with the vendor to ensure that these bins are priced more reasonably than similar bins at the retail stores. So the 35 gallon is around $50. The 45 gallon might be a few dollars more, but as of right now, no subsidy. Now, for those that don't produce much trash, they're still going to be required to have a container. I know that there is some concern about getting it to and from the curb. Our bins have wheels on them, so they should be able to wheel them back and forth. You know, that's the only option as of right now. And there was a third part of that question also, right? As far as disabled folks.
Yes.
Okay, so with disabled, there is going to be an accommodation, but that's through the Americans with Disability Act. It's not necessarily specific to just these containers. I mean, that's just something that they've always been able to do with the ADA, so they should explore that option.
Okay. Tracy, those are all the questions I had that were submitted to us in advance.
Okay.
Do committee members have any questions? Okay.
I do have one quick question. So up until June of 2026, it's anything under 55 gallons, correct? And there is a 35 and a 45 gallon with the with DSNY. Is there a minimum size if it has a tight fitting lid? Like a 20 gallon, will they still pick that up, or is it considered too small? Like,
So that's actually a really good question. I don't know that there is a minimum size. We really just have a maximum size. So I'm almost sure that you'd be okay with anything less than the 55. But before I say yes or no, let me just take that back, and then I'll get back to the community board. This way, I make sure that I'm giving you all the right information.
I appreciate that, because that might be a solution for senior households that have small, like don't have a lot of trash production or trash, like, so.
Yeah, and you know, Steve, we also had a meeting recently where it was asked, the question was asked by residents. We have a lot of different types of streets, in the district, and some of our streets have very narrow sidewalks, and there was a concern about storage of bins, on sidewalks, and the new sanitation vehicles and the ability to pick them up, and snow-related questions. Will the new trucks be rolled out gradually? Has Department of Sanitation considered all of these operational complexities of the city? And neighbors were concerned also about lost or stolen pails, people walking away, or sanitation dropping them off a few houses down. And will there be any changes with DSNY, or is this too early yet to ask?
Okay, so as far as the stolen or misplaced cans, we recommend that all residents write their address on the cans. Sanitation workers are supposed to place the cans back where they found them as they're servicing their route. Now, I know that they're out there and they're moving, so the cans may not always necessarily end up exactly where they were placed. We do ask folks to be good neighbors. If you see a can that's not yours, it's your neighbor's, maybe help them out a bit. But nonetheless, sanitation workers should be placing them back exactly where it is that they found them. As far as cans getting stolen, again, an issue that isn't happening right now. We're anticipating that it could happen. So it's an assumption. So as of right now, I'm not going to get into that too much, but I will say that it's just like any other piece of stolen property. That's really going to be something that you're going to report to NYPD. All right. And as far as the mechanized collection beginning in 2026. So the trucks are going to be retrofitted. That's how we're going to start this. We're going to retrofit the trucks. They're going to have essentially like an apparatus on the back of the truck that's going to be able, they're called tippers, that are going to be able to grab the bins and then tip them into the hopper. All right. And this is going to eliminate some of the spillage and keep the streets cleaner.
Thank you, Steve.
I have a question.
Yes, Isa?
Steve, this is regarding the fines. Now, you mentioned that the initial fines will start at $50 and then gradually move up for second offense, third offense.
Mhm.
How many will that continuously move up as a person gets or receives more than 3 offenses?
So third and subsequent offense is $200.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so not to get off the topic of containerization, but there was also something else that I wanted to mention here tonight. If it's okay with you, because it's violation related, I might as well mention it now while we're talking about violations. Is that okay? Or do we
Sure.
want to wait till later? All
That's
right.
fine.
So effective December 19th, we're going to be increasing fines, commercial fines for repeat offenders. All right. So for commercial establishments that aren't doing the right thing and cleaning in front of their businesses and they're repeat offenders, and this is all cleaning related. So not cleaning your sidewalk, not cleaning your area, not cleaning 18 inches out into the street, the fines are actually going to be increased. So fines are going to increase from 100 for the second and subsequent to 300 for the second and 500 for the third and subsequent. Okay.
And this is just maintaining cleanliness on the sidewalk 18 inches from the curb.
That's correct. Yeah. So and only commercial establishments and only cleaning related offenses. Dirty sidewalk, dirty area, not cleaning 18 inches out from the curb line.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Wade, do you have a question? Another question?
Yes, I do. And I'm sure Steve, I'm sure, the department did a lot of studies on everything. But what about the apartment buildings when they pile 100 bags, 50 bags, 200 bags of garbage and they sit out there for a day or two? I would think that that's where you're going to have more rat infestation than the one bag in front of my house or in front of my Third Avenue building.
Right. So for apartment buildings, there are going to be different rules. Larger buildings are not necessarily going to be required to use the official New York City bins, the 35 or the 45 gallon bins with the wheels on them. Moving forward, we're going to actually have larger containers depending on the size of the building, and those are either going to be on the street or on the sidewalk. So they're going to collect larger amounts of trash.
Dino, you have a question?
Yeah, so I was wondering, so I wasn't able to catch the presentation. I had an issue with the link, but so apologies if you already went over this. But I've noticed like in other countries, they have large containers for garbage and large containers for recycling that gets picked up weekly. And it's for, different buildings. So like, is that a solution that you guys have discussed? Is it something that could maybe offer a solution to what Wade brought up on commercial corridors where there isn't room for like smaller containers in front of each address?
Yeah, so Dino, you're absolutely right. In other cities and other parts of the world, this is standard. Containers on the street for garbage is standard. We didn't have black bags all over the place, mountains of trash, which is unsightly. It smells, it impedes pedestrian traffic, it takes up a large footprint on the sidewalk, it attracts rats and rodents. So that's why we're moving towards containerization. And it's absolutely a step in the right direction. We started with the commercial businesses requiring them earlier this year to containerize. Now we're requiring residents in some of the smaller buildings to containerize this November, and then moving forward, larger buildings will be required as well. So we're moving in that direction for sure. And we've also had a clean curbs pilot program, which has taken place over the past couple of years, in which we worked with some of the bids across the city to put containers on the street to collect commercial trash. So they didn't necessarily put out their garbage in front of their individual businesses and have their carters pick it up. There was one container on the street that all the businesses brought their trash to, and then that was serviced with one carter. So to answer your question, yes, that's absolutely the direction that we're headed, and it's evolving. So it's exciting to see.
Is there something in particular that's like delaying that from becoming a reality? Because it just seems like the most practical solution instead of taking these like baby steps to getting there, you know?
Yeah,
Yep.
as far as timeline, we do have one laid out. So anytime there's change, I think that it's probably better to do it in baby steps. But if you'd like me to provide you with the timeline for when some of the larger buildings are going to be required to containerize, I'm happy to provide you with that information.
Right. And I think there's also an environmental review that's taking place from the prior presentation was mentioned for the larger apartment buildings. And, there was a time in New York City when I've worked in government for quite some years where we had containerization for commercial businesses. And the reason why containers were moved from outside to inside was actually because of rats and because of spillage in the containers and overflowing containers. So I know that there's been a lot of changes, technology, plastics, etc. But we have good actors and bad actors sometimes, and overflowing, large containers also brings rats. And that's what we saw years ago, which is why the city moved and did pilot programs and moved from containerization for commercial buildings to storage within the building, because there was a lot more trash on the street. So I think that's why in some of the larger buildings, there is going to be an environmental review, because there's going to be new types of products out there. And while it may seem counterintuitive, larger buildings do produce a lot of trash, and making sure that it's stored properly in the right types of containers. And I'm sure those will have to be looked at in a different kind of way, because it's a lot more from, what I've read as well. Tracy?
Well, I was just going to say, Steve, if you could provide that timeline, I would love to see that.
Absolutely will do. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Does anyone else, do we have any more questions from committee members?
I do have one more comment question.
Um,
Can
just
you hear
one
me?
moment, Wade.
Yeah.
I'm opening this for the committee members just at the moment, and then we can
Sorry.
definitely come back. No problem. Any committee members?
Yeah, I got something.
Okay. Hi,
Just want to say
Richard.
hi to you.
Hey, Richard.
Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. That was fun. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Great job, Richard.
Thanks.
Okay, and Wade, you had one more question?
Yes, we did touch a little bit on the corner garbage cans. Years ago, I remember that the sanitation department would actually come and inspect the garbage in those bins and go after the tenants from upstairs and summons them. Why doesn't that happen anymore? Why aren't you allowed to do it? We can't even say anything to the people. And an hour after sanitation picks up these cans, people from upstairs are coming in and doing their thing, and they're filling up within hours. So we have no room for any other garbage.
Yeah, so Wade, I agree with you, and that's an issue that we see across the city is improper disposal. So you have residents and businesses dumping their household and commercial trash in the corner baskets. They're being misused and abused. They're supposed to be for litter, right? So coffee cups or candy wrappers, litter. If you find that this is happening at a particular corner basket or on a particular stretch on a regular basis, by all means, let us know, because we are allowed to open up the bags and we could go through them looking for some type of evidence, whether it be a mailing address on an envelope or a shipping label, and then we could use that to issue a violation after the fact. So if there are any,
I thought I heard somewhere, I don't remember where exactly, that you're not allowed to do that anymore, the sanitation department doesn't do it anymore.
so there,
Right.
yeah, there was a time where we weren't allowed to do that, but currently we can.
So we could have your people enforcing that as well, no? Or you're leaving it up to the people, to the consumer on Third Avenue? I mean, if the residents on the avenue knew that this was gonna happen, maybe it would help. But we're not gonna be the cops.
No, you could send that to us. The community board could send it to us, and then we will assign enforcement agents to go on out there and inspect. They're allowed to open up the bags.
Can they also call 311 to report
So-
it, or is it?
Yes, we always recommend that folks call 311 to place complaints. We're a data-driven city, so it's always nice to have that information, especially that helps me to help you. So when the community board calls me and says, hey, we're having this issue and we have all these 311 service request numbers to provide to you, it helps us to do our job. And then we could say, hey, we have a chronic issue out there. We need to take a look at this. But if we don't know that it's happening, then we're not going to allocate the resources, right? But with that being said, the community board does have a direct line to DSNY. They have my contact information. They have the contact information for community affairs, and we make sure to get those requests directly to the right people. So place the 311 request, call the community board, let them know, they'll pass it along to us, and we'll take a look at it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Josephine, do you have any more questions, or anyone from the committee?
Shit. That's it. Oh, wait, I'm sorry,
Larry?
You say beginning in 2026, you must get
9 units.
and everyone is going to be charged that, or how do we?
You have to be purchased, yes. At $50.
For everybody.
Correct.
Every-
1 to 9 units. And if there's a commercial like this with 2 families, yes. Has their own rules and regulations. Mhm.
All right. Well, if no one has any
Okay.
more questions,
All right, Tracy.
I believe that we can ask for a motion to adjourn, and thanks, Steve, very much for being here, and Richard as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and I second the motion.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, Steve.
All right.
Oh, we lost everyone.
My pleasure,
Have
Wade.
a good
Thank
night,
you, everyone.
everyone.
Okay, thank you all.